Good day. I'm Roberta Winters, President of the League of Women Voters of Radnor Township. And I have with me today Catherine Miller from the Central Delaware County League of Women Voters, who has been involved in voter service for many years and actually served on the state board of the League of Women Voters in that capacity. So I feel very fortunate to have you with me again this week, Catherine, because the last time you were here, you helped us understand better about the voter registration process. And we all know that you must be registered to vote before
you go to the polls.
And there's a deadline, which is October 11th. Now, we also talked a little bit about National Voter Registration Day, and that's that national holiday that we just had on September 27th, when everyone across the country should realize that they must register to vote before they can participate in the election. Now, we hope you've all told your friends and neighbors about the importance of registering to vote, because October 11th is just around the corner. And you told us, Catherine, last time that you have to be 18 years old in order to vote.
And a U.S. citizen.
U.S. citizen.
Right.
And I think you also have to live in a residence where you're voting for 30 days prior to the election. So it's really important with that October 11th deadline approaching that everyone has a valid voter registration on file. And how do they check that again? Even if you think you're registered to vote, it's good to check.
You go to the state website, votespa.com, and check your voter and check to see if you are registered.
And if they need to change anything, like if they've moved or if they've changed their name,
yes,
you can do it still as long as you meet that October 11th deadline.
Right.
Now, we hope that everyone will go to the computer and check that right now before October 11th, because if they don't and something's wrong, you're going to be out of luck November 8th.
Right.
Now, our program today, Catherine, I wanted to get a little bit more specific about, because voter registration seems simple, but it's not so simple in some specific cases. And we don't want anybody to get hung up on some detail, because all of this is really under the control of the Pennsylvania State Secretary of State. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And so the Secretary of State in Pennsylvania is in charge of the votespa.com website. But there's a lot of little things, and things like, you know, getting a paper application that might be hard to find that's in the hands of the County Board of Elections.
Right.
So there's a lot of moving parts here, and it's important that everybody understands if there's a problem where to go to, besides just online.
Right.
So that County Board of Election is like the final say.
Yes, they are.
Now, one of the problems we have in Radnor, and I'm sure maybe another place in Delaware County, is that we have a lot of students.
Right.
We have lots of colleges, and I'm sure in Lower Merion they have their share of colleges. Haverford has their share of colleges. And sometimes the students come to us with questions. And it really would be helpful if everybody knew, first of all, what address should college students use if they want to vote on November 8th and use their registration process to do that?
Okay. They should use where they reside. So where they get their mail is basically it. Not a post office box. Won't be good. You need an actual address.
So if I were at Eastern University and I just had Roberta Winters, Eastern University, Radnor, PA, would that suffice?
I don't think so. I think you have to have your actual room number.
A room number. Okay, so you have to have an actual place where you live.
Right. First, you have to make a decision on where you're going to register. You have to decide whether you're going to register at home, where you've lived for the last umpteen years, or you're going to register at school.
And I know sometimes home addresses, like where your parents live, is your permanent address.
Yes.
So like if you got your, income tax or whatever, you would send that to your home address.
Right.
But voter registration can be where you live at the
Right.
time of the election.
Right.
So people have to make a choice
Yes.
between where they live at the moment in college or where their parents might live or wherever
Right.
their permanent address might be.
Right.
Now, does it really make a difference where they register? I mean, with the president, you can vote any place. Am I correct?
You can vote any place, right? But I think you do want to make a choice on which one. What's very difficult about the absentee voting, if you're talking about your home, is that the time limit is very small, and so it has to be mailed to you. You fill out the ballot and mail it back all within a week.
Well, I know, suppose I was registering in Radnor, I might be voting for the state representative as well as the president. I might be voting for a state local official as well as the president.
Right.
And I might not know if I'm just been in, the university for 3 or 4 months,
Right.
anything about local politics.
Right.
I mean, I could vote for the President of the United States, but I'd be making choices about candidates that I might not
That's right.
understand. But that's a choice you make when you choose to register. If I'm going to
Right.
vote you will vote for local and state officials as well as the president of where you register.
Right.
So if you register in Pennsylvania, you're voting for Pennsylvania, local officials, state officials, county officials, as well as the president.
Right.
If you vote home, you're voting for that home state's local, state, and county
Right.
officials.
Right.
So that might make a difference to you. I know my children always wanted to vote locally because they wanted to have a say in like school board elections.
Right,
That was something
right,
they cared
right,
about.
exactly.
Because I was a teacher and they said, well, Mom, we want to make sure we try to have, candidates that we think will be favorable to education in Radnor because that's important to us.
Good.
So there are lots of different ways you can think about this.
If you don't have to vote for any of those people, you can leave any of those things blank on the application if you want. If you want to go in and just vote for the president and go out, that's okay.
Oh, that's good to know. But there are some advantages to voting at your parents' address as well, but it's not as easy if you're not going to be home on election
Right.
day.
Right.
But you need to choose only one address, correct?
One address.
You can only have one address. But college kids are lucky because this is the only time in life that you have a choice. I don't have a choice.
Right.
But they have a choice. The other thing someone said to me that I didn't realize is that sometimes where you vote is important if you're receiving scholarship aid from a certain state. So, for example, if I were from New York and changed registration to Pennsylvania, it might impact my financial aid. But that might be something you need to check the fine print with. I don't want to dissuade anybody from changing voter registration, but it's important that you make sure you understand the implications. Because I would hate as a league person to tell somebody, well, you can just register either in Pennsylvania or New York, it doesn't make a difference. But it could make a difference.
Right.
Suppose I wasn't registered in New York and I wanted to register in New York. Is there a website or someplace I can go to figure out how to do that?
Register in New York.
Right.
Go to www.vote411.org and find out the details about registering and absentee ballots by state.
So that's important. So I think that's the league's website, www.
It is
411.org.
411.org.
Vote411.org. And that you can find out about any state,
Yes.
how to register in any state, from Alaska, Hawaii. You can find out at www.vote411.org. And that'll tell you all the details and give you everything you need to know.
Right.
Well, suppose I do decide to change to my registration if I was registered in Maryland and I want to register now in Pennsylvania. Where do I go to find out that information?
You go to votespa.com.
Votespa.com.
Right.
And If you don't have a driver's license, is that going to be a problem?
You can take a picture of your signature and upload it into the application, or sign right on the screen using a stylus.
Isn't it wonderful, the marvels of technology? So you mean you can tell me that I have a smartphone,
Right.
and I'm standing in the lunch line, and I can fill out at votespa.com my voter registration application?
Right.
Just use my stylus, sign my name,
Absolutely
upload
right.
it,
You got it.
and that's the process.
That's the process.
But if I don't want to do that, I can still fill out a paper ballot.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
it's not a
yes.
ballot. It's a paper application, I'm sorry, to register to vote.
Right. Right.
And I could download that off the computer, too.
Yes, you could.
So there's
The
lots of
Votes PA.
different options. Now, suppose this. Is there a deadline?
Yes. This is the thing that will knock your your knees out from you. Yes, it's October 11th, and you must be registered by midnight, October 11th. And if you do the in-person, turn something in, it's got to be in by 5 p.m., October 11th,
Where would I turn it in?
to the voter registration office of your county,
So that would be, if you were in Radnor, it would be in
Delaware County.
Media, in
Media.
Delaware County. And if
Right.
I were at, say, Haverford or Bryn Mawr, Haverford would be Delaware County, Bryn Mawr would be Montgomery County.
Okay.
So I would have to go to Norristown and hand deliver it by 5 o'clock before the office closed.
That's right.
Or if it was in Chester County, if I was
Out to Westchester.
out to Westchester, I'd have to go there. So if it's at Westchester University, I'd have to go to Westchester to the Board of Elections office there and hand deliver it by 5 p.m.
That's
But if
right.
I'm online, I have till midnight.
Yes.
What about postmark?
They must be postmarked by 11:59, just before midnight.
Well, I think around here we don't have pickups.
That
After.
late, right.
So, I mean, I think you'd have to get it into the post office before the last pickup, which is probably like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right. And by email.
By email, the last minute,
Yeah.
right by midnight.
Yes.
11:59. I could
Yes.
still get it in
Yeah.
by October 11th.
11th. Right.
Okay, we've got to get those applications in to register to vote by October 11th. Now, once I've done that, my work's over?
No.
What do I have to do?
You have to check up to see that you are registered properly. And 2, then you might want to get an absentee ballot, or depending on where you registered.
But it's important to verify that you've registered at
Yes,
the
it
Votes
is.
PA, but it won't be done like overnight.
No.
You have to wait a few days.
Yes.
Because-
a week at least, I'd
At
say.
least a week, because these people at these county offices have to check everything
Mm-hmm.
and make sure everything's correct. So just because you've
Put
pushed
it
the
in.
button and sent it off, it's not instantaneously going to verify that you were in
Right.
fact registered. But do keep
Absolutely.
checking.
Right.
Now, suppose I stay registered with my parents' or guardian's address. It might, what I think might be my permanent address. And I want to vote there.
Okay. So
What do I have to do then? I've registered in New York or Maryland. What do I do? I want to vote.
oh, you want to go back
I want to
home
vote there. I want to vote back in New York or
You can either go back there to vote, or you can ask for an absentee ballot.
So if I can't make it back to my home
Right.
in New York or Maryland or wherever it might be, I can get an absentee ballot.
Right.
And so if it's Pennsylvania, like suppose I lived in Pittsburgh and I couldn't get back there and I was
Right.
at Cabrini or Eastern or Villanova, I could go, how would I get an absentee ballot to vote then?
Go to Votes PA, and you can get one there.
Votespa.com,
Yes.
and I get an absentee ballot. Can I
Right.
fill it out and vote that way?
No, you have to send it into your.
This is making it difficult. You mean they have to send me one,
Yes.
and I have to fill it out,
Yes.
and I have to mail it back to them?
Yes.
And that means I have to have a stamp and everything, right?
The whole works.
The whole works. So I have to write legibly, I have to sign everything, I have to put a stamp on it,
Yes.
and I have to mail it by a deadline.
Yes.
And that's all at the votespa.com website, all those instructions?
Yes.
It's not easy, is it?
No. It's very difficult. And it's very difficult with absentee ballots because there's just not enough time. If you happen to be somebody that puts your mail in a pile on your desk and doesn't look at it for a week, you may be too late.
Because I think there's a deadline, too. They have to apply for an absentee ballot by November 1st.
Right.
And it has to be in by November 4th.
Right.
So even do it before the election.
Yes.
So your friends might be saying, oh, I'm going to vote, on the 8th. But you have to be ahead of the curve.
You do. It's very difficult.
So if you choose to stay registered in Pittsburgh, you've got to be alert.
Mm-hmm.
Stay on top of this. Watch your calendar. Put it on your
Right.
phone. Make sure you understand that you have to have that absentee ballot.
Back to them before the 4th.
And you have to even get it by November 1st.
Right.
So Halloween, people, I would just say, get that ballot by Halloween and get it out.
That's right.
So,
Make it your chief priority that week.
trick or treat.
It won't take very long to do it.
But it really is trick or treat. If you don't get it in, you're going to be tricked and you're going to feel badly.
That's correct.
Now, what about another state? Where do I find out about those deadlines and how to get the forms there?
Well, if you go to www.411.org.
It's vote411.org, right?
Vote 411.
So
right.
www.vote411.org.
You'll find the links to other states.
This is complicated, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Now, what about these people in the military? I've had my sister-in-law was in the military. I know she's in California, and then she's in Texas, and then she's in New York. I mean, how do they figure out how it works?
They have a different system, and they have somebody in their unit who will put up things on voting for them. But you can register online by mail or in person. You can use the federal postcard application, FPCA, to receive an FPCA by email. Write to STUOCAVAAPP@pa.gov.
So there's actually a PA. So if I were in the military and I was a resident of Pennsylvania,
Right.
I can get a federal postcard application,
Yeah.
and I can do that at this STUOCAVAAPP@pa.gov.
Right.
That's a mouthful.
It is.
I think it's a good thing we have a slide to show that.
Yes, we do.
And then the state can also mail you a paper voter registration application if you email that site. So
Okay.
this is really something good to know. So
Yes.
my sister-in-law could vote no matter where she was
Right.
at Pennsylvania
Right.
if she had this information. And I think you can get some of this information online, because when I've looked online at that www.votespa.com, there's a little window, and it talks about the military in there.
Right. Because they are a special exception, because everybody knows they're far away from where the action is in the voting here.
What about people who need assistance? My mother was 92 years old, and, she just recently passed away. But, she really needed some help
Yeah.
to fill out these forms.
You're allowed to have somebody assist you. You must put on your application who they are and what you need help with. Help with seeing, okay?
So what about if I have a different language? Like I have neighbors who don't speak English.
You can put that on there too. I need help with language, and you need someone to help with directions or to translate a certain ballot question.
So they will have people help you translate if you don't understand a ballot question. So that's good to know.
Yes.
Particularly if you don't speak English. I think I've also heard they have applications in Spanish.
Yes, I think that's a wonderful idea.
So that means if I have my cousin's a citizen, but she, doesn't speak fluent English, and she doesn't understand how to do this application stuff online,
Right.
she could get a paper application in
Yes.
Spanish.
Yes.
Or if there was a Spanish teacher or an ESL teacher, could help
Yes.
fill out the applications. They could sign that they had helped the person understand what was needed to be
Right.
done, how they wanted to fill it out.
Yep.
So that's really great. Suppose, there are people who have, again, like my mother, who had trouble with her hands. They have trouble with the signature. Is that something that they need to worry about?
No, you can have, again, somebody else can help you with, you have to sign it, but they can, like, countersign and say, I was here.
Can it just be like an X? They can just use a mark, too,
Yes,
can't they?
yes, they
So
can.
a signature could be just your mark.
Yes.
But if I mark it with an X and I go to the polling place and put an O, is that going to be a problem? If I've registered as an X.
Yes, it would be a problem.
So I have to
Your
remember.
signature is very important.
Your signature, or whatever mark you use, should be the same mark you use all the time.
Right.
So if you mark your paycheck with an X and your voter registration is an X, when you go to vote, it has to be an X.
Right.
So that's important, that the mark or the signature should stay the same.
Yep.
Now, I was going to ask about, I hate to say this, but sometimes there are people who are like felons and they've, committed crimes, or they've done something that was really not something that we think is appropriate as citizens. Do we take away their right to vote if they've been convicted of a crime like a felony or something?
We used to take away their right to vote. We now restore it when they are discharged from prison.
So that means if I were a felon and
Yeah.
committed some kind of a crime, when I got out of jail, I could still vote.
Yes.
Well, that's good to know, because sometimes people change.
Right.
We hope they do. And what about somebody who's alleged to have committed a crime? Sometimes with this judicial system, they wait months before they're tried.
That's right.
If I were accused of some crime, but I hadn't been brought to a court or been convicted, could I
Right.
still vote if I was being held in jail?
No.
But if I haven't been convicted yet, they're just holding me.
Um,
It's alleged that I've done something wrong.
oh.
I think I could still vote until I was convicted.
Oh, that's a waiting trial. You can do it.
If I'm still awaiting trial, I could do it.
Yeah.
But once I'm convicted and I'm in jail,
That's it.
that's it. So if I'm serving time for any kind of a crime, I cannot vote.
Right.
But if I'm a felon and I'm released from jail, then my vote is restored.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was just a few years ago that was the case.
It was. You used to have to wait 5 years before being able to vote. I mean, they've changed it a couple of times, but it was much more restrictive.
But I think it's even unconstitutional,
It is.
they've said, to hold people's vote like that just because they've
Yeah.
been in jail.
Yeah.
So if they've been in jail for a felony, they can come out and vote.
Right.
Well, that's good to know, because we hope people have reformed, and I think sometimes they often do. Now, I was walking the trail this morning, and there was a
Okay.
lady who said, well, I have one daughter in France and a son in Germany. How are they going to get to vote? So suppose they're studying and working abroad. What happens to them? How do they register to vote? Because she said to me, they want to vote.
Right. It's a little bit more difficult, but can be done. Excuse me. They can use any official voter registration form. They can register online or mail it in person. Okay. They have to be registered, just like everyone else.
Okay. And how do they have to need a special kind of a form or something?
They can use the federal postcard application, which is from st.uocavapp@pa.gov. Okay.
And they can get that?
Yes. You can receive that by email.
So they can request that they receive this federal postcard application. Sometimes it's called FPCA.
Yes.
We have so many different initials around here. But that they can get by email, and they can
Yes.
fill it out.
Right.
And they can get a paper voter registration application by emailing st-uocavapp@pa.gov, and my goodness, they'll get it.
They will.
Let's
They will.
hope that works, because this is a really important election.
Yeah, and they have to get it back in time.
And they have to get it back by October 11th, so they probably should put airmail postage on this one.
That's the
That's the voter registration
Petition.
deadline in
Okay.
Pennsylvania,
Yes,
so
it
they
is.
better get it back by October 11th, so I wouldn't trust just regular mail.
Right. I wouldn't either.
So that's going to be a challenge. I hope those kids come through
Yeah, it is.
and get those registrations in by October 11th and get those federal postcard applications in so that they get them sent to them.
Okay. What they should remember is every time they change their location that they're living or their address, they will need to re-register.
Okay, so even if the one who's in Germany goes to France, he's going to have to get a new registration.
Right.
So every time.
And each student, if you from your student at Eastern moves from apartment A to apartment C, they need to change it as well.
So if they change their dormitories, if they change their apartments, if they
Right.
change from one town to another town. So if you used to live in Radnor and all of a sudden now you're living in Bryn Mawr, Lower Marion, you've got to change. You may even have to change your Board of Elections.
Right.
Because it's just a matter of a mile or so and you're out of the township
Right.
and out of the county.
Right.
So every time you change your address, you also have to change your voter registration form. Thank goodness for votespa.com because
Right.
it made it a lot simpler,
It did make it a lot simpler.
and particularly with these students who know what they're doing. Now, suppose there are people who are retired. You know, we have a lot of people of
Yes,
our
we do.
age who are retired, and they might have a vacation home in Florida, or they may vacation in Vermont, and then they may come back to Pennsylvania for certain times. How do they choose where they register to vote?
They need to choose where they are most of the time, but they cannot vote in both places, as tempting as it may be. Even though they pay taxes in both places, they cannot vote in both places. So just one place. And they must register where they actually live or reside, and owning property does not constitute residency.
So that means suppose I owned a beach house in New Jersey, which I think some people do around here.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I own that property or I have a ice cream business at the shore, I can't vote in New Jersey because I live most of the time in Radnor.
Right. That is correct.
So I only have to choose the one place I live the majority of my time.
Right.
So that makes it very, very challenging for some people because some people spend half their time one place, half the time another. So you've got to pick the one spot where you spend most of that time, and that's the only state in which you can register. I don't have a choice.
Right.
Only college kids have that choice.
Yes, they do.
Well, now, what about people, I think we talked a little bit about this the last time you were on the show with me, Catherine, about they change their name.
Yes.
You know,
We
sometimes.
did. We did.
And what happens if you change your name?
You have to re-register because they don't know that you're the same person.
Okay. So your signature would probably change if you changed your name too,
Yes.
so that they would have to go to votespa.com,
And fill out a voter registration form.
or they could go to a government agency and get a
Yes.
paper application, or you
Right.
could go to the motor vehicle place where you get your driver's license, and you could re-register there with your correct
Right.
name.
Right.
What about changing your address? I think we talked about that with students changing their address. And suppose it's me now and I move. I have to do it too?
Yes, you have to do it too. It's for you as well.
So everybody who changed their name or address has to change their registration.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not like the customs guy said to me when he came back from our honeymoon. It's not as though you were related.
Well, I want to make sure that everybody not only is registered to vote, but confirms, in fact, they're registered to vote by going
Absolutely.
to votespa.com,
Absolutely.
calling their voter election board
Right.
and media, or getting that card that says, yes, you're registered and this is where you're going to vote, because that'll come from the local election board. So
Right.
those are important things to do before October 11th, because after that, that's the drop dead date, right?
Right. It is. After that, they're not going to do anything for you.
And this election, your vote is your voice, and we want to make sure every voice is heard. Now, in closing today, I'd like to thank Catherine Miller for helping us better understand the voter registration process, Channel 21, who's been most gracious to help us today and share this topic with all of you in our community, and of course the Education Fund for the League of Women Voters,
Right.
which is providing some funding for us to get out the vote and get people registered to vote. And we are most appreciative of you, the audience, today, and we're encouraging you to please share what you've learned with us so that, in fact, everyone who is eligible to vote will register to vote and then go to the polls on November 8th. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for registering to vote. You can help make democracy work by voting, and also consider voting and joining the League of Women Voters. Thank you.